Hi, and welcome back to another episode of the History of Fan Anime. I'm your host, William Chow, and in today's episode, we're going to talk about another really controversial issue. It is about the censorship of Japanese anime. And we're going to go talk about some of the recent articles and just how basically it's just a reoccurring problem, something that we've always had encountered with and really had no problems with, except now obviously this is the newest rendition of it being repackaged and basically re-regurgitated back out again in a different form, to try to achieve the same results of the non-results that has happened in the past. All right. So before we begin, I want to remind everyone to go down below and click like and click subscribe. We know that any sort of comment that you can make will help the YouTube algorithm promote it and make it available to more people. All right. So anything that you do will be great. That's a little, I don't ask for much, but again, if you could at least do that, then it will definitely help the YouTube algorithm. Thank you. And for those who like to support me financially, I do also have the super thanks button down below, as well as the links for the PayPal and the Patreon. Now, I've been building a lot to the Patreon recently. I've now put a lot of resources available to you people, as well as a lot of the content that is for the subscribers that I cannot put on YouTube, because there's now a lot of topics that I'm now covering which are not allowed to be put on the YouTube, so all those things are now available to the members there. As well as I've also now put the my audiobooks available as in audio form and on video form as well. Those are also partially free to the Patreon members, so do check that out. Okay, and so for all the other new users that are on this channel, I've also compiled all the episodes of the History of Fan Anime into a large database sheet. And if you like to basically look at different episodes that are pertaining to certain topics, like maybe CDs or maybe art books or maybe the fan culture itself, like conventions and that kind of stuff, they're all put together in a book-like fashion and they're put into the spreadsheet. Again, the link is below, as well as other resources like the database sheets for the My Anime list of the 1980s, and of course the top 30 animes of the 1980s is also all available in spreadsheet form there. Link is below. Today's topic is based on some articles that have shown up recently that have been a bit of concern for especially a lot of these newer anime fans. What the heck's going on? We're getting all this great anime, and then all of a sudden someone wants to step in and start censoring it. And again, when we were doing anime and doing things with fan subbing and that kind of stuff, one of the things that we really wanted to focus on is the almost the purity, almost the conciseness, the accuracy of things like translations and that kind of stuff. The true shades of meaning that is coming from Japanese anime and reflections of their culture and how it can be different and whatnot. Okay, we really embraced that when we did the fan subs and that kind of stuff. We did not like it when the commercial companies neutered it or tried to take all the stuff that they thought maybe was offensive about it, or controversial issues or whatever. They took that all out of the anime or tried to rename it, or even so much so as change the story, make up a weird ass story about this and call that a proper translation, right? And again, we hated that kind of stuff, and that's what anime fans really push back on. And so anyway, here we got some government agencies trying to do the same thing that they've always been trying to do, trying to shut down our anime and trying to deneuter it under the name of womanism. Okay. Anyway, so I'm going to come up with some examples of things that have come up, and I'll do some reaction to them. Okay, and add my bit based on the history that I know of. Because this isn't the first time it happened, right? So this is a reoccurring issue, and so I'm just going to bring my past back into it to give you an illustration of how this has been brought up in the past. Okay, so without further delay, let's get into some of these articles.
We've got the UN trying to get Japan to change its ways again. This has happened several times now, at least one other time. So this would be the second time that they've done this, and they have concerns. They're concerned because Japan largely ignored their last report. At least that's what I saw from the report that Niche Gamer has that I'm going to go over. So once again, people from other countries are trying to tell Japan how they need to do things. And when you read this report, UN to urge Japan to end discrimination against women. Well, that sounds great. Let's stop hurting women. Well, some of the main things in this report that they had were censorship on anime, video games, and manga regulations. So they want Japan to have more regulation on their art, basically.
So this isn't something new, because we've had this before. We've had back in the day where soccer moms got all uptight about oh, there's too much violence in video games. With games like Halo, Call of Duty, Modern Warfare, things like this. They're all worried that kids might go crazy and start doing weird things and whatnot that might be inappropriate. Other games like Grand Theft Auto, grew up, and they might go out and start doing things with cars and whatnot. But as people that grew up in Gen X and that kind of stuff with that, we turned out pretty normal, right? We went out and got jobs and got married and had regular lives, right? We didn't go out and do these things that we knew in video games because we knew that was a fantasy. That's a story. That is a game. That's how we relax and rewind. But somehow they tried to make the connection that the exposure to this causes this. And yet, that never happened. Now, here's this thing going on with anime. Now, again, back in our time, a lot of the animation companies focused on the male audience, right? They incorporated this thing called the 3Gs: girls, guns, and gore. As long as it had any one of those, or best case scenario, have all three, and that's how a lot of the OVAs and TV shows were marketed, to try to get you to to go first of all, aimed at that audience. A lot of the TV shows were aimed at marketing toys, right? Think of all the Gundams, Transformers, Pokemon, and things like that. They're all out to get you to buy merchandise. Go out and collect all the different Gundams and collect all the different Transformers and Power Ranger kind of material and that stuff. Like, go and buy all that stuff, right? So it's heavily advertising rated. But again, they never, attacked that at that time. They thought, okay, well, it's all fine. And again, as soon as the other half of the audience came in with Sailor Moon and all the magical girl shows, we saw our anime conventions, which were, let's say, 10, 90, 80, 20 type of distribution towards guys, okay? All of a sudden shift, all right? And then now we're getting like virtually even distribution, probably just before the anime crash, probably even distribution, in anime attendance, so probably 50-50 women to men ratio. And when all this sort of, the Instagram social media phase started happening, I think the shift is now going probably more female now. We're probably at a 60-40, maybe a 70-30 sort of ratio of female people, going to anime conventions and that kind of stuff. Again, a lot of self promotion and that kind of stuff going on. So again, it's not. This is like clearly these people just don't have a clue of what the real fandom wants, and as I said, this is really totally bogus. How an outside government is trying to make influence to what happens in Japan. I mean, that's like somebody else, from somewhere else, like someone else coming along and telling you what you can't do in your house. Like, you've got, rules and procedures and things that you do in your house, maybe some traditions and some cultural things that that you do in your house. What would it be like if someone came along, from somewhere else and saying, hey, you can't celebrate Chinese New Year in your house because, we don't like how the incense smells in your house. And so you can't celebrate it. You got to control that. And it's like, no, go away. Mind your own business. That's what you'd probably say. Like, who the heck are you to tell me what I'm supposed to do in my own house? Thank you very much. Go, pay attention to your own little crap, okay? And, we got things under control here. And I think that's how Japan's, issue is. And we're going to see, what the government, does about this. And obviously, they ignored it the first time, so I hope they do ignore it again as well.
And this is a no-no with this politician.
Okay, so this guy basically is, I guess the equivalent of a free speech advocate inside the Japanese, Democratic House there, and he's out to protect the fact that this is a type of censorship, a type of limitation on what you're allowed and Canada to do. And against that, I'm pretty sure that Japan's got rules in place and they've got it under control, and they've been doing this for 10s, 20s, 30. I mean, even probably back in my time, like 40 years ago, they've had this under control. And all of a sudden, this is, and you think this is not okay. This is just them, trying to regurgitate something that they tried, back in Gen X days. They've tried this stuff, and it's just like, look, you regulate what happens in your own country, right? You want to put up, walls of, customs or what duties or whatever. You want to increase your, inspections and that kind of stuff of merchandise, and of course that never works. It's like, I lived through that era, trying to get dojinshis and that kind of stuff, and because the post office and stuff, they just they don't have the time. Customs doesn't have the time to do all that crap. So, and so they're going to try to go to the source and try to change them. It's like, forget it. This is Japanese culture. This is Japanese, the way of life for many people, and traditions and that kind of stuff. Don't come around here with your Western policies and your morals and all this garbage that you want to, your agendas that you want to come through. Just pay attention to stuff in your own country and leave the Japanese alone, because this is Japanese anime, made in Japan, written in Japanese. They're not designing this stuff for you states and the rest of the free world. I mean, as I said, they're designing this stuff for sale in their country, and they didn't. As I said, and why would they want to make it like neutered, like all the Disney crap that's out there, right? This is stuff that Disney crap is made in America with all their wokeness and that kind of stuff. And then they got to make it appealing to everybody in the world so nobody gets offended. And all these stories are boring and unexciting because you know what's going to happen, because nobody can be offended or traumatized by anything that happens in these movies. And then they just translate it into all these different languages for the world, and it's boring as crap. And that's why the majority of the Disney movies are like garbage right now. And you said, and I think the Japanese are pretty well aware of this, and that's why they're gonna pretty well gonna say that they're gonna leave things the way they are, because I think the Japanese have got things under control.
And they had some critiques. Like I said, they're concerned because basically Japan ignored their last report. UN committee criticizes Japanese media may incite violence against women and girls. That's right. Because everybody that watches anime just gets up and wants to just go beat women or something. This is the most ridiculous shit that I've seen in a while. But this has been a thing going on for a long time. And you're seeing corporations buckle to Western censorship. How we've seen it in the video game side of things quite a bit lately, haven't we?
In the past, we've always had this bad stigmatism to the word otaku, right? We always think of it, originally as the guy who lives in the basement and all he does is spend time in front of his DVD player or game console, and he just sits there and watches a hentai all day, and that's essentially the concept of what the otaku was, right? Um, and of course, the modern word for this would be probably like an incel or whatever you want to, a woman to make up for this thing. But and this is the more of this clamoring on this that's saying that, oh, okay, the only people who sit there and watch anime is all these incels and otakus and all this other stuff, not realizing that there's a large percentage of people who watch anime that are just normal, sort of millennials and Gen Zs, okay. Obviously, the X generation has probably dropped down to like maybe a quarter of the market, probably again because we're the old timers. But again, we're normal. I don't think we're very we've got jobs to do. We've got to make money in order to get our to pay for our subscriptions and all that kind of stuff, and in order to buy our anime goods, right? So this is just more fear mongering. Obviously, people who don't understand the market. And they're just trying to spread the fear that, oh, okay, more anime means more incels and that kind of stuff. I think it's just absolute garbage.
So there is a concern about this stuff, and it's always funny to me when we see these people go and push Japan to change. These are the same people that run around and demonize the West, calling them colonizers, and the people from the West criticizing the West, by the way, the most woke liberal type of people you ever met, talking about colonialization and all of that shit. And then basically here they are trying to push their worldviews on Japan. Like they bully Japan quite a bit. And Japan actually has some of the most diverse content there is. I mean, there's whole sections of manga dedicated to like gay and lesbian love stories. They're like romance novels and stuff. It's like a whole thing. I think it's called like Yuri and Yahweh or something. I don't know that. I don't read this stuff, but I know it exists. And like that's mainstream stuff you can go buy in stores. Like so there's more content. Let me put it this way. There's content for everybody in the at least the manga area for people over in Japan. But, it doesn't matter because they still have sexy anime characters and stuff like that, and that's got to go. Even though I was just reading something, and I might at least talk about this on Saturday's live stream, this study talking about how women prefer to play as sexy characters. Here's the study right here. I might do a video on this, or I might just talk about it Saturday, but it's very interesting. We will go over it, but here's what happened, basically. The United Nations Committee on the Elimination of Discrimination Against Women, the CEDAW. What a waste of money this is. Not like, why are you patrolling anime when there's actually like real problems? Like, for example, some of the stuff in the Middle East with women, like them not even being able to drive cars or get an education, or I don't know, like having to ask their father's permission to go outside. Some of the stuff that happens over there, I would say that should be higher up on the priority list than, I don't know, cartoon drawings and video games. But whatever. We know what this is all about. It's the fact that anime and video games are high up there in popularity and they make a lot of money, so they want to control it and regulate it so it falls more in line with the rest of the bullshit that comes out in the West. According to has reportedly expressed concerns about Japanese media and the speculated impact it could have on gender and sex-based violence. Because people sit down and watch Sailor Moon and then they want to go out and just start slamming women around. According to free speech advocate and politician Yamada Taro, the Japanese Cabinet Office, Gender Equality Bureau, and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs confirmed the contents of their meeting with the CEDAW. However, nothing further was said about the current state of Japanese media. The Japanese government has been thankfully slow to respond to external pressure when it comes to censorship of Japanese media, although the same cannot be said for its corporations. And I talked about that a little bit. The companies, they're just jumping to get involved with DEI, and it's quite sad. But for the time being, free speech remains enshrined in Japanese law with few exceptions. The problem, and he's going to talk about this, is that Japan hasn't really seriously discussed any of this yet. So we're kind of waiting on that, but it's good that people like this guy are there to fight that stuff.
And as he comments, yes, I really believe that the freedoms that Japan has in terms of writing their mangas and that kind of stuff, and doujinshis even, allows them to create so much more content that we, the rest of the world, have never even thought of. Of course, yeah, he mentions that there is a lot of Yuri and yaoi content. Okay, I mean, look at Sailor Uranus and Sailor Neptune, and look at all the the doujinshis that I love from the King of Fighters. The Yuri and friends, and the Athena and friends, and all that kind of stuff. They've invented the whole entire concept of futanari. Okay, and this is not like that we did have the concept of dick girls, but I mean just the whole entire thing is a genre in itself, and of course tentacles and everything else like that. Like this is part of the reason why the Japanese have come up with such diversity, and it's just so many different type of things of that. That probably other people wouldn't have thought of, right? I mean, were you ever going to get through this kind of material with Disney or Warner Brothers? No, of course not. Never. Okay, I hope you enjoy that. And again, there are many sort of reactions to this, though, so I might have to put some more, make some more episodes in regard to this issue. And again, on the surface, it seems really, really tragic and really controversial of what the heck are they trying to do? I mean, trying to outsiders trying to inflict their values and their morals and their sort of views and their rules and regulations on a totally separate country with their own sort of thing. Because I mean, the reason we call it Japanese anime is because it is from Japan. It is in Japanese, designed for Japanese people, right? They don't make Japanese anime. They don't animate it in Japan and then English dub it so that it can be for the rest of the world. I mean, that's something that you maybe think maybe like Walt Disney would do, right? They'd make a movie that's appeasing to everyone in the world, and then they have to dub it in multiple languages and that kind of stuff to do that. Japan doesn't do that. It's you get a particular anime, it's in Japanese. They expect to sell most of the copies and that kind of stuff of it in Japan. Okay, all the merchandise and all that kind of stuff that they sell on the show is designed mostly in Japan. Sure, some company like Crunchyroll or whatever, may come along and say, hey, we want to, pay for the license to that so that we can, get it into English and put it onto Crunchyroll or whatever. Sure. I mean, that's them licensing it, but that's not Crunchyroll going in there and saying, no, we don't want to have any pictures of this or that, or, we don't want any, robots. We don't want any girls wearing anything shorter than this much, knee-high dresses. We don't want any this kind of stuff. It's not Crunchyroll doing that. It's just basically saying, okay, here's a bunch of Japanese animation. Okay, if we want to get some particular title or whatever, and it passes a bunch of checks or whatever, then Crunchyroll will go and license it, and then they'll do whatever they need to it. Okay, so that's sort of the proper way. I mean, if you got rules and regulations, you change your own rules for your country. Okay, don't start goofing off and trying to force and suggest that Japan should change, their way, right? And that's sort of what's going on here. So, so anyway, we got more episodes of this coming up. So again, if I have to break this up into more episodes, I will do that and make it. So again, make sure you go down below and remember to click like and subscribe, and we'll get into more episodes as we do. Okay, so until next time, I will see you again.